Hey everybody, welcome back to the studio, welcome back to my channel. Well, you've gone out, you bought yourself a good camera, bought yourself a good lens. You took some time and you learned how to use your camera and your lens. You went out and you shot an assignment, or maybe you went out for a week or a day or whatever, and you shot some nature and wildlife pictures. You've looked at them on the back of your camera and they actually look pretty good. So then you brought them back to your house and you uploaded them and you did some editing on them. You sent them to get them printed. And if you tried it online, you may have got a response back saying, this image is not the correct resolution to be printed, or this image is not the correct size to be printed, or something like that. Or you take them into your local lab and you give them a USB stick or a camera card. And they look at them and they say, I'm sorry, I can't print a 24 by 36 out of this picture, or I can't print a 16 by 20, or I can't print an 8 by 10 out of this picture. It's not cropped properly, or the resolution's too low. And you look at them and you say, well, what do you mean? You don't understand. I just bought a newer camera. It's like 30 megapixels or 40 or 60 or 80, whatever megapixels. You don't understand. I bought a professional lens. You don't understand. I am a professional photographer. What do you mean you can't print this? Well, I'm usually the one that at that point, I'm getting phone calls from people that they're upset that they've tried taking the pictures to get them printed and they just don't understand it. And they want me to help them. And here's what usually has happened. They have no idea what the heck happens when they put the file in their computer and open it in their editing program. They think that they have this massive file, which they probably do, and that they can do whatever they want with it and it's still going to be a massive file, and then they can get it printed. It doesn't work that way. Or they go in using, let's say, the rectangular marquee tool, which is in Photoshop and other programs, and they've cropped it and they've sent it in and they're missing heads or they're missing bodies or whatever, or it looks horrible when it's cropped. And they go, I don't understand this. I've got this expensive gear. I've had people tell me, well, you don't understand. I work on this computer type. You don't understand. I work on this editing program. I've had people phone me saying, well, I have an Apple. I have a Mac. I have an iMac. You don't understand. I spend all this money. You don't understand. I have Adobe Creative Cloud. I have Lightroom. I have all of this. And they just don't understand. And you can have all that. That's not a problem. That's great. You can be shooting with Canon, Nikon, Sony, Fuji, whatever. Great. You could have a Hasselblad. You could have whatever. Great. That's fabulous. You're getting good images, but it's what you're doing to those images after you put them on your computer. That's the issue. Now, before I get into this, I want to explain a few things. First of all, I'm not going to talk today at all about editing your pictures for brightness or darkness, for color, for saturation, or cloning anything out. That's totally outside of what this video is. I'm going to talk about cropping your pictures. Now, for that editing that you're doing before you get to this point, always do your editing, then save your file before you crop it. Because I have so many people that come in and they've done bizarre things with cropping their image. And I say, can we go back to the original? And they go, this is the original. So first of all, do your work, save your file. Don't save it over what the original was. Save it as a different name. I always put in something like edited or even E or A or something after it to indicate that it's the one that's not from the camera. I also strongly recommend that you save it as a TIFF with the layers, or if you're using Photoshop, save it as Photoshop format with all the layers. Then you can go back and edit it. So then once you've done all that, once you get it into your computer, what should you do, or what will you going to see first? Well, here's one of the confusing things that people have. They contact me and they say, I just bought this big camera and I just put my file into my editing program and it says it's at 72 ppi. Or if you're in Canada, it's 28 point something centimeters per inch. And they say, but you don't understand. This is a big camera. I should have this massive file. Well, you see, it works like this. The camera manufacturers and the editing program manufacturers, when the file opens on your computer, it opens to the screen resolution of 72 ppi. I always go to say DPI. I have to correct myself. PPI. And it opens at that because that's how it works. It doesn't open it at a higher PPI. It opens at a lower PPI. But all the information is still there. Nothing has been lost. Nothing has been done to it. It hasn't done some magical thing and changed it. That's just the way it opens. But the file is huge. So you can do it a couple ways. Or you can look at it a couple ways. The first way is you can look at it as this. You take your file and you can open it as a 72 DPI, which is 3,000 pixels or 5,000 pixels or 10,000 pixels by 2,000 or 4,000, whatever the size is, and it's going to be a good size image. Or you could open it or you could crop it to an 8 by 12 at 300 PPI, and guess what? It'll be at the same resolution, if that's what your native resolution of your camera was. It's just compressed it into a smaller space. That's all it's doing. It's not doing anything to ruin your pictures. If your camera is set up correctly, you're getting a good image. And you go from there. Now, the problem is, at this point, is a lot of people go in and they start cropping here and there, and they don't think about size, they don't think about proportions, they don't think about anything like that, and they have issues. And people will crop it, and they'll crop it really long and really narrow, and they'll send it to the lab and ask for an 8 by 10, and it comes back and 4 people are missing, or all the heads are missing, or all the feet are missing. And you go, well, I don't understand. Or they'll get it back and no subjects in it. Had that happen to a client. Or the lab will actually refuse it if you're trying to upload it online and says, we just can't print it. So when you're editing it, you need to make sure that you're editing it correctly, that you're cropping it to the print size you want, and that you're doing it at a high enough resolution. Now, I strongly recommend that you save your print sizes at 300 PPI. That's the best in my opinion. Some people say it has to be higher. Some people say lower. I say 300. That's what I work with. It's worked for years. I got images on the wall to prove that it works. 300 PPI at your print size. So 8 by 10, 11 by 14, 16 by 20, 24 by 36, whatever, at 300 PPI. That's what I recommend. Now, if you're using the rectangular marquee tool, it is harder to do it that way. In fact, it's almost impossible. So I strongly recommend you use the cropping tool. So let's take a look at how to do this. All right, so here we have an image that I just pulled up. Here's what a lot of people will do is they go in, they use the rectangular marquee tool, and then they start cropping away. And they'll go in and say, oh, I like it just like that. Then they'll say, oh, no, you know what? I think I like it a little bit better like this. And so they'll go in and they'll crop it like this. And then they say, oh, no, a little bit, maybe not quite as much up in the height. Then they'll go in and crop it like this. And then I'll say, oh, that looks just perfect. I like this just the way it is, just like that. I'm going to send it into the lab now and have this printed. And I want an 8 by 10, or I want a 16 by 20, or I want a 24 by 20, or whatever. And they send it in and they get it to the lab, and the lab contacts them and says, it's not going to work. Or worse yet, the lab doesn't contact them and they print it as an 8 by 10 or a 16 by 20, 16 by 24, or whatever. And when you go to pick it up, it looks horrible. Well, here's the problem. So let's just go in and we're going to use the crop tool. And it's currently set to 10 inches by 8 inches at 300 pixels per inch, which is the resolution I use for printing. And let's just crop it to an 8 by 10. Well, that's an 8 by 10 proportion right there. So what have we got? Well, we don't have an 8 by 10 in any way, shape, or form. And you can go in and you can even say, okay, well, let's do a 16 by 24. So let's do 24 by 16. Okay, that'll be better. That'll be better. And you go to crop that, and it's like, well, it's still not right. Well, why is it not right? Well, here's the problem. The problem is that when you use the crop tool, it crops it to the exact print size. When you use the rectangular marquee tool, the problem is with that is it has no size set up. It's just set to normal, and away you go from there. The other thing with it is that when you crop this, you're just cropping away without knowing any resolution or anything like that, and you're just going in and telling it to crop, and you're having issues. So what should you be doing? Well, here's the first thing. Take the image, correct the image so that the image is looking perfect. So all the color corrections are done, the density corrections, all of that is done. And then save that before you do any cropping. Then go in and crop your images using the crop tool. And you go in and tell it the print size that you're looking for. Now, if you don't care about the print size, if you're going to take it to your lab and just say, print it as I sent it to you, you can use the rectangular marquee tool, but I still don't recommend that. I recommend giving your lab the print size that you want. So in this one, 16 by 24, we're going to go in and crop it as a 16 by 24, and we're going to say, well, what do I think looks good here? Well, I think that looks good. And you crop it, and there's a 16 by 24. So you send it to your lab, say 16 by 24, and that's what it looks like. It looks perfect as a 16 by 24. There's no issues whatsoever. If you want it as an 8 by 10, you go in, you crop it as an 8 by 10, and then you go in and you crop it for 8 by 10, and you say, how do I want it to look? Well, I think I want it to look maybe just like that looks good. And then you crop it from there. There is no argument, no issues, no whatsoever about it. You're getting the best resolution, you're getting the best print size. Now, the other thing that happens with the rectangular marquee tool so much is this, is that when you go in and you start cropping, well, you're starting out with a 57 meg file. So then you go in and you start cropping, you say, I want it just like, I think, maybe a bit bigger, maybe just like right there. You go in, you crop it, you say, okay, that looks good, I'm going to crop it. All of a sudden, you're down to a 5 meg size. Then you go in and you say, you know what, I think I want to crop it again a little bit differently. I want to crop it, yeah, that looks good. I want to crop it there. And now you're down to a 3 meg size. And here's what happens a lot of times. That 3 megs is quite low. That 3 megs is pretty pixelated. And then you take this file and you send it to a lab, or you take it into a lab and you say, I want a 24 by 36 made of this. And they go, no, can't be done. You've gone down in size so much that you've lost so much data, so much of the information that was there, that you're now in trouble. It just doesn't work. So how should you do it again? Well, you should go into your file. While you've got it, instead of going to the rectangular marquee tool, you should go into the crop tool. Tell it the size you want to crop, the 10 by 8 at 300. You want to go in, you want to crop it. And what's going to happen is it's going to take the 57 megs. You're going to go in here. You're going to say, this is the size I want. You're going to crop it. And it's down to 20 megs, but it's still the resolution you need for printing. If you go down here, you can go down closer if you want. You can crop it using the crop tool. It goes in. You've still lost some, but it's keeping it at 20 megs. Why? Because it's not throwing away any of the data. It's keeping it down there. It's still pixelated. It's still not the greatest, but it's better than using the rectangular marquee tool. So I strongly recommend, use the crop tool when you're cropping. It will give you the best image that you can get. So until next time, get out there, take some amazing pictures, edit them correctly, crop them correctly, and get some amazing prints so you can hang them on the walls and give them to your friends or even your clients. So have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye now.